Who are the people investing in NFTs? I want this video to simply spark your imagination about possibilities that exist and see what might be there that could create the next multi-billion-dollar company. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Future Internet Billionaire. My name is Josh Pagli. I am a software developer and entrepreneur, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about NFTs. Now, one thing I want to clearly say here is that I am no expert in NFTs and blockchain, but being an entrepreneur and in the tech world, I'm always very interested in looking at these new worlds, specifically for today's video, NFTs, and the potential business opportunities that exist in this new thing that is unfolding. I want this video to simply spark your imagination about the potential startups or ideas or possibilities that exist outside of just selling, creating, or reinvesting in NFTs. Now, NFTs right now feel like an absolute gold rush. It seems like everywhere you turn, there is content about NFTs or people making millions creating and selling NFTs. But one thing that I want to point out about a gold rush is outside of just the person mining and selling the actual gold, there are a lot of people in that value chain that have the potential to make a fortune. Now, if it's still not clear exactly what I'm talking about, I'm gonna break it down into 4 specific categories to help spark that imagination and explain what I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and dive into today's video. We have the infrastructure players. These are things like the Ethereum blockchain network. They provide the infrastructure behind the digital assets like NFTs. Now, if you're not exactly sure what the blockchain is, I'm not going to go into the detail about this video because frankly, I don't even 100% fully understand it. But if you just spend some time Googling it or searching YouTube, there are incredible videos that are specifically dedicated to that topic and could add some more clarity about what I'm talking about. So I definitely recommend going to do that. For simplicity's sake though, and on the topic of gold rushes, these blockchain and infrastructure providers serve a very similar purpose to what trains and trucks and banks did for the gold rush miners. They were involved in the transportation, storage, and authentic record keeping of these assets. And we're not going to spend a ton more time talking about infrastructure providers, but as you know, again, NFTs are like the raw gold. The infrastructure providers are like the banks, the financial institutions, and the transportation companies. And as you can see clearly just in the world today, that in and of itself could be a massive business opportunity by simply providing the infrastructures around this new digital asset world that is unfolding. So the next person we need to talk about in this value chain is the miners themselves. Now, talking about miners could be a little bit confusing because people like mine for Bitcoin and Ethereum and things like that, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the analogy of a gold rush. So when I say a miner, it's the person that's producing the raw material in terms of the NFT. So that would be things like digital art, GIFs, audio files, anything that they are trying to mint and sell as an NFT. That is what I am referring to as a miner. And one of the really kind of most famous miners or NFT creators at this time is an artist that goes by the name of Beeple. He actually sold his digital piece of art called Everydays that sold at auction at Christie's for $69 million. He is an example of somebody that produced the raw material, the gold, and put it into the market to be sold. Now, the miners actually play a very critical role in this whole supply chain, especially in the world of NFTs. Because if you don't have the artists or the creators creating these assets to sell as NFTs on top of the infrastructure, then you don't have that value in the value chain. The miners play a very important role because the more value they create on top of these blockchains and these networks, these infrastructures, the more valuable the infrastructure themselves become. So I believe there will actually be a day, now again, this is outside the scope of this course, but that the underlying provider providers of the infrastructure, the blockchain networks, yes, there are many of them, they will probably compete and try and recruit creators to use their platforms again because of the supply and demand. The more value on their network, the more valuable their infrastructure becomes. So outside of the miners, they're the ones creating the raw materials that exist on top of this infrastructure that they're providing to the market for people to essentially acquire and buy and sell. But there is another person in the supply chain that I want to highlight. This is the marketplaces and the suppliers. Now, again, I said that they provide NFTs and they supply those to the market, but that's not who I'm referring to in this scenario. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about. Suppliers in a gold rush are the people that are selling the pickaxes, the shovels, the wheelbarrows, all of the equipment and supplies that the miners need in order to actually extract and get that raw gold out of the ground. Now, it's actually traditionally found as an old quote that the people that actually make the most money in a gold rush are the people supplying the equipment. Examples of suppliers in this NFT world and in this NFT asset creation and minting process are places like Rarible, Rainbow, MetaMask, and many other examples. If you haven't ever heard of those companies, definitely take a moment to Google them to see really what they're doing. They're acting as digital wallets, helping ease the creation and eliminate a lot of the hurdles that usually come with trying to create an asset on top of these infrastructure blockchain networks. They make it much easier for the creators and the miners to produce their raw materials and add them to the market. Now, outside of the suppliers, the people that obscure away the complexity of the underlying infrastructure, you have marketplaces. I like to think of marketplaces as almost like jewelry stores. So when you think of gold, it goes through a refining process, they beautify it, they create it, they display it, and they sell it to the general public. These marketplaces can be things like, again, Rarible, Nifty, Super Rare. These are places that have obtained an audience to display the creators' artwork, assets to the general public so that they can be purchased. Now, marketplaces themselves, as you know, are massive, massive businesses. Places that have specifically focused on building an audience and then selling other people's things. In our modern day, if you think about physical assets, marketplaces could be anything from Amazon to a Walmart, or depending on wherever you're at in the world, your equivalent of Amazon, where they are selling the goods of other people. That's the same thing with these digital marketplaces. That in and of itself is a massive opportunity. So you can see that the suppliers and the marketplaces play a really important role in actually getting people to buy these assets. The next thing I want to look at is the kind of the last, and there are many different little mini value spots in this value chain of NFTs, but I want to look at the people that are actually buying these assets. Who are the people investing in NFTs? NFTs investors are people that are trying to either preserve their wealth or use it as an investment to hope that it grows in the future that they could sell later for a profit. One of the most notable investors in the NFT space right now is an individual that goes by the name MetaMask. He is the founder of a crypto NFT based investment fund called MetaMask. And now remember, I previously mentioned Beeple, one of the miners who sold his piece of art for $69 million. Well, guess who bought that NFT for $69 million? You guessed it, it's MetaMask. Investors in the NFT space are probably some of the most forward-thinking individuals on the planet, even more forward-thinking than cryptocurrency investors, because crypto is pretty mainstream now. NFTs are still very new. I have another video where I actually talk about Bitcoin billionaires. Well, Bitcoin is the cryptocurrency that exists on top of a blockchain, similar to how an NFT represents an asset that exists on top of the blockchain. Now, in that video about Bitcoin billionaires, I mentioned Tim Draper. He bought a ton of Bitcoin, pretty much all of the dark web's Bitcoin, for $19 million before it was ever valuable. Well, now that same amount, that $19 million investment in Bitcoin, is worth $1.2 billion. So what people are trying to do by investing in this NFT space is see a similar return on their their investment. They are hoping that these NFT assets become similar in value to all of these cryptocurrency and this whole world that is exploding before us that we see that is now obvious but wasn't back then. So the NFT investors are trying to accomplish the same thing, get in early and make a fortune. With NFTs, as you can see in this whole supply chain, there is a fortune to be made in many different layers, way more outside of just the creation and selling of these NFT assets. As you can see, we talked about the infrastructure providers, the one that are building the underlying rails and networks and ledger systems that actually track these records. Then you have the miners. These are the inspired individuals that want to create pieces of art and digital assets or physical things that they want to attach to an NFT and sell in the market. Then you have the suppliers in the marketplaces. These are the individuals that are making it easier for miners to create and sell their raw materials. And then you have the investors and purchasers. These are the individuals that are actually buying these things out of the market and investing in these things out of the market. So you got to see a little bit from the beginning to the end. And now, again, there are massive businesses that exist at every layer. If we look at a similar industry, which is cryptocurrency, you can see that Coinbase created recently, based on their IPO, I actually have a video on it, go check that out, my most recent video before this one. They created a $65 billion business in the marketplace supplier category. Brian Armstrong even said in an interview that he's just providing the picks and the shovels to the crypto world. Well, imagine if somebody else could do that for the NFT world. Couldn't there be a multi-billion-dollar example for this new crypto asset? The answer to that is absolutely. So I hope this video inspired your imagination, brought to light maybe some opportunity that exists in this new world that is unfolding. It's still very new, but it's very exciting. So that's why I wanted to make a video on this, to show that there are so many opportunities outside of just what you traditionally hear on the internet about buying and selling NFTs. Anyways, I hope you all liked this video or got some value out of it, or just maybe even found it entertaining. I have no idea. But if you did, could you please take a moment to like this channel and subscribe? It would really mean a lot to me. And if you have any other suggestions or ideas about content that I should create, please let me know down in the comments below. Other than that, God bless you all. Have a great day. I'll see you on the next video.